Okay, so with the last couple of Teen Titans episodes really kind of feeling fillery, I think this episode right here is the perfect time for things to start actually happening, and look at that, they do. The episode opens with the Titans trying to break up a raid on some tech facility by some Slade minions. But these minions are a big deal. They have lasers which could easily slice pretty much any of the Titans in half with just a single blast. They're able to easily knock out Raven's force fields. Their fighting skills are quite good, and even though Robin's able to keep up with them, even guarded, he seems to be hurt by their attacks. It tends to take 2 to 3 Titans working together in unison to take down just an equivalent amount of these henchmen, and that's ridiculous for henchmen in like a comic book-esque setting. And the fact that they turn out to be robots doesn't really change that. It's still pretty crazy. And they get what they wanted and run off, leading the Titans to have to split up, and Starfire is almost severely injured. Robin is just barely able to save her, and it's really only luck and the actions of their enemies that end up allowing him to do so in the first place. And when he finally gets the chance to interrogate one of these guys and discovers that they're robots, it only makes things worse, and now he's like hyper-focused on trying to figure out what Slade's up to. The chip that Slade was after in this episode. Robin assumes that it's tied to Slade's plans, so he goes off of that in a very interesting way in the end, but we'll get to there. Another tech facility is broken into when Robin isn't present, so the other 4 Titans go to deal with the break-in, Robin even contacting them and apologizing for being on another lead elsewhere, just before the 4 of them encounter a villain known as Red X, who has stolen another of these chips and is able to take all of them down very quickly and efficiently using tech which seems geared specifically towards them, holding them at bay with complex acrobatics and martial arts. Wait a minute. That sounds like something Robin would do if he were disguised as this guy and trying not to hurt his friends in a prolonged battle. But it can't be Robin. He talked to them on the communicator, right? It's not like people can record themselves ahead of time saying things. Okay, so it's pretty obvious that this guy is Robin. Like, they add a little bit of, like, a techno distortion to his voice, and the VA talks in a deeper voice, but it's still obviously him. And I get what he's trying to do here. He thinks if he presents the chip to Slade, he'll be able to get into Slade's good graces and convince Slade to tell him what he's doing. Tell him what his plans are. Something that he would never tell to Robin, but that he might tell to this new villain, who is very similar to Slade, if you think about it. He's got a mask and everything. But just as it's obvious that Red X is Robin, it's also obvious that Slade kind of suspects what's going on. So he suggests that he wants to partner up with Red X, but claims that Red X just hasn't proven himself yet and sends him to get more chips. This leads to another confrontation between Robin and the other Titans. And this time, the other Titans have adapted to his fighting style as Red X. Cyborg has adapted his mechanical parts so that Red X can't defeat him the same way again, and the others are combining their powers, overlapping their powers so that he can't target them individually anymore. And so he's forced to fight them far more directly and actually hurt them this time, actually throwing Beast Boy into the path of a moving subway train. He pulls him back out of the path of that train and then uses the excuse that he wasn't finished with him to explain away why he did so. But still, he put Beast Boy in that situation in the first place. And throughout all this, throughout every single lead that they get, throughout every single attempt that the Titans make to figure out what this villain is doing, and by extension what Slade is doing, since they're obviously in some way related to each other, since they're after the same thing, Robin just keeps ignoring them and going off to his room in the tower and working on his various Slade leads all by himself, or, as we know by the end of the episode, coming up with tech that his Red X persona can use to fool his friends. But he does manage to procure all of the items that Slade wanted, and Slade does appear to speak to him. It seems like, despite the fact that he has been treating his friends like absolute dog crap, he has, at least in this limited way, succeeded. But this is when Slade reveals that he knew it was Robin. He steals the chips away from him and reveals an entire room full of his robot minions. The Titans show up, but they show up to stop Red X and let Slade get away. So Robin runs after him, after revealing his identity to the others, of course, leaving them to fight the entire room of these incredibly dangerous robot characters all on their own. And yes, they survive, and yes, they seemed unscathed when we see them again. But Robin still betrayed them. His hyper-focused obsession with Slade led him to betray them and not even realize what he was doing. And it's made worse by the fact that this Slade turns out to be just a robot. He didn't actually end up accomplishing anything, and it doesn't even seem like Slade needed the chips in the first place now. It seems like he was just doing this to draw Robin out and hopefully learn more about him, because Slade seems just as interested in Robin as Robin is in Slade. And I understand why Robin did this, don't get me wrong. He saw Starfire almost get hurt very badly, maybe even killed, and that affected him. He realized that he had to take steps to learn Slade's secrets immediately. And he came up with this plan, realizing that if he told his friends about it, they might hold back when fighting against Red X, which would compromise his disguise. I get all of that. It makes logical, reasonable sense. But it also makes sense why the others all feel betrayed. We get lip service to the fact that all of the other Titans, aside from Starfire, have chewed him out pretty hard over this. But Starfire, the Titan who was most convinced that what he was doing was for the greater good, back when they thought that all he was doing was abandoning them to fight Red X on their own, what she says to him, I'm sure, hurts far worse than any of that yelling did. She points out that there is a similarity between Robin and Slade, something that Slade has been saying himself, and cites that Slade didn't trust him just like he didn't trust them. He had reasons for doing everything he did, and they are, on a logical level, understandable reasons. But that trust between him and the people closest to him has still been wounded by this. And all that is great. All that is great character drama, which carries this episode fantastically, along with some excellently staged fight sequences. Among the best of the series so far, if not the best. But what is most interesting about this episode is that it does highlight the ways in which Slade and Robin are similar. Slade said that he was allowing Red X to audition to become part of his group, part of his plans. But he already knew at that point that it was Robin, and yet you still get the sense that he was speaking truthfully. And so by extension, you get the sense that all the stuff at the end where Robin fought the robot Slade was still part of that audition, as Slade does say through the robot that he will meet Robin face to face in the future, which is something that he had said he would do after Red X had finished his audition. He also saves Robin from falling off of a building using the same excuse to justify why he did it that Robin used to justify saving Beast Boy earlier. The character parallels they're subtle enough that they don't jump right out at you, but if you think about them for just a second, they become obvious, and that's the best way to handle this kind of thing, really. This episode is great. It's super well staged. It's super well paced. The fighting is great. The drama is excellent, and it expertly sets the stage for some of the plot details we're going to be getting down the line. It's a fantastic episode, one of the best episodes of the show, and definitely the best one that we've gotten so far. Like, I still probably like Nevermore a little bit more than this one, just personally, but in terms of just, like, objective quality, this is the best episode of the series up to this point. All of that said, guys, if you have seen the Teen Titans episode Masks, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.